Hey everybody,
I'm Josh.
and I'm Eitan. Welcome back to the Younger Half podcast. We are two 14-year-old boys from New Jersey who discuss, debate, and share insights on everything from history to politics, sports, current events, and more. Our goal is to provide an outspoken voice for the kids of our generation, as well as to voice our passionate and informative opinions on our current times. Follow us on Instagram at the Younger Half. To see more of our podcasts, check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify Podcasts at The Younger Half.
Let's get into it. So I was in a Target today, and so something surprising to me was the lack of people wearing gloves in the stores. And also not just today, like also really since like this whole thing started, really like just the lack of people wearing gloves in the stores. Um
Well,
yeah.
do you think that's an issue?
I do because it kind of defeats the purpose of social distancing. Not fully, but it does in a way because if you're touching something that everybody else is touching, and then you're touching your eyes, you're scratching this, you're then touching like the chicken that you're buying at the grocery store, then you're touching this, which then you bring into your house, and you're an elderly person, then
Yeah, but if that's the same thing with gloves, it's just a second hand. It's cross
not if
contamination.
n-
If I touch my wallet, then pay for it, then when I'm home and I have to give my daughter or whatever, my brother, like a credit card, and I give it to him, and that has the germs from the store. It's
right.
just a second hand. You scratch
Right.
your eye.
That's
You
why
know.
I agree. That's why people wearing gloves and then doing that, and driving with the gloves on their steering wheel and touching their door handle, doing all this. That I agree. But if you're being careful about it, that I think is very very important.
But I feel like you can also be careful with your regular hands,
No, so
Wash
you're
your
gonna you're
hands,
gonna bite
like
you're gonna bite the garlic pepper from the shelf like.
I guess so. But it just when you have a bunch of people wearing gloves, you have to ensure that they're using correctly. Like I'm walking around Target and other stores and I see people with masks on their nose and their necks. Like it's a beautiful necklace, but it's not meant to like you have to hope that everyone uses it correctly.
I mean, that's what we're going to talk about in a minute is like the misinformation people are receiving about coronavirus.
Well, like a lot of people are thinking that if the economy is opening again and like stores are opening right here in our hometown, outdoor dining and restaurants are opening. So people think that like what do you think? Does that mean the pandemic is getting better?
Right. So that's right. That's like a popular question that's going around now is like what you just said. If the economy's opening, does that mean that the pandemic is getting better? I think that
Yeah, good job.
if you reopen cautiously and you're reopening with social distancing and being carefully, I think that that is appropriate. The head of World Health Organization said that this is not even close to being over. Now that's not meant to be a scary thing or anything. That's just meant to reopen cautiously. Um, Now one might say that like I'm young, I have nothing to worry about, which is what a lot of people think. Which is if you're not thinking about it deeply is a valid thing to say. But if you really dig into it, it's a quite without realizing it. I'm not accusing anyone of being selfish, but without realizing it is quite selfish. The reason that that is selfish is because like I was saying before, you'll go to the store and not be careful. Whatever it is, just not social distancing and going into other people's houses. Then, you go see your elderly person or an immunely compromised person or so on and so forth. They could, God forbid, die because, they're in a higher risk.
What prevents me from wearing a mask when I'm going to see my grandma and social distancing with my grandma? But with not immunocompromised people that have strong immune systems, they they seem that there's no real reason to social distance with someone who you feel like you're not in the risk.
Right. So that's what I'm gonna get into in a moment's time. So, but before that, you might also say that the hospitalizations are going down where you live. That doesn't mean much because that could just mean that the where you live, the cases has gone down, but that doesn't really mean that much because we've seen in multiple states that they have paused their reopening process. They have cases have spiked because there's something called asymptomatic. That is when you have the virus but you don't know it because you don't have any symptoms, which is actually majority of people. So right, so now it's the same case. You don't socially distance. You go to the store, not be careful, do other stuff, and you go and hug your elderly grandparent, or go and not be careful around them, or all this stuff, and or your elderly grandparent doesn't socially distance and everything, and they God forbid get it.
Right, but all these states that you're mentioning that are going in spikes, that's because they jumped the gun. They reopened too quickly without so much precautions. I feel like if we go
That's not
out
true.
and we
That's not true. They have reopened cautiously. It's just that people don't understand the medical to it. People are saying the hospitalizations are down. That it's not in New Jersey. It's only in that doesn't mean anything. It's you could be asymptomatic.
feel that if if you're the chances of being asymptomatic are really slight because as you're saying hospitalization is going down, numbers are going down, it means the spread is going down. So yeah, there's going to be one or two people here and there that
What
are
are you talking
having it.
about? 26 states have halted their reopening process. Right. So that's why I strongly believe that you should still socially distance and everything. A St. Louis couple made headlines when they waved an AR-15 gun at protesters in front of their Central West End mansion. McCloskey, the man wielding the gun, said he and his wife were scared to death when protesters entered their private street and marched by their home on Sunday. You know, so prompting many people to be incredibly scared, which rightfully so. So this leads to a classic debated question: should people be allowed to own semi-automatic guns? What do you think, Eitan?
Well, I don't understand where McCloskey was coming from. Was he planning to have a mass shooting and kill all these protesters? I know they were in his private street, but I don't know, just having a gun like that, for as many people say, the counter argument to this is protection. You need to protect a robber, but you do not need 30 rounds of ammunition to protect someone from stealing your diamond ring. You
Well,
don't need it.
well, right. Unless they have semi-automatic gun.
Right. That's why if we start slowly taking it away, then it won't be like snap, okay, no one has guns, it's perfect.
Well, those are all good points, but I I read a comment on the internet that which I strongly agree with, that you would ban guns and only the criminals would have them, or only the people wanting to do bad would have them, and nobody would be able to protect themselves. That's the flaw in your point of view.
Yeah, but even now, such bad people, they're not armed like they are with with all these AR-15s. And even if they are, you don't take it from them. You take it from their source. You take them from their dealer or from their shop that's selling these illegal guns. In so many incidents of mass shootings, you have FBI 2 months later arresting this guy for selling an illegal bump stock or an illegal machine gun that was used to kill 30 people. You need to start from the source, from where they're getting it from. I agree. It's no way the bad people are gonna have it and the good people are not.
So
I thousand
that's
percent agree.
exactly. So if you agree with me, then how could you possibly be arguing for your point of view? Then it would just be chaos. All the bad people would have guns, and all the good people would not. You just proved my point.
It won't be because you start with taking the stores. Go to the gun shops.
That's
Just make it selling it to the right people. How does you find out how these bad people who are out there to do so much harm got these guns? How did these everyone says like, oh, they had a mental health issue. That's why. Well,
but
how do you get it from the source who sold it to this mental health person?
you know a couple things. First of all, that is way easier said than done. First of all, second of all, you know that's what is like like drugs. Oh yeah, you ban this and just lead it back to the drug dealer. Oh yeah, that's the same ideas. Way easier said than done. And now look at it. Is people still smoking crack and doing everything like that? Are they still doing drugs? Yes.
Yeah, but it's not, as I said many times, it's not going to be a snap, okay, everyone. It's going to take time. It's going to take years. It's an operation. You hear always on the news, they crack down on 35,000 whatever pounds of marijuana
Doesn't
on the
mean anything.
street. So you just
They'll
need a
proceed to
crackdown to
they'll
start over.
proceed to grow the plant, proceed to produce it. It's the same exact thing. They'll proceed to get it from, I don't know, some uh some arms dealer or
So
some.
you don't think we should even start? You don't think we should start getting it from these people? You don't think we should try?
That's a fair question.
I think that it's much it's much better to take away 1,000 guns than take away 0 guns.
I
And you
mean,
don't go on TV and say we're taking everyone's gun and start chaos. You do operations. You do takedowns. The whole
but
world does not need to. You don't need to start
fine,
causing
that's a good
chaos.
point. But I'm still saying that it would not even come close to getting rid of all the semi-automatic guns. Not even it would be like a tiny percentage.
Yeah, but every percent counts. It's like everything.
I
One
agree,
step
but
forward,
what I'm just saying, I'm just arguing. Oh yeah.
back.
So I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just arguing that you can try to do everything you can, take all the. I agree, fine. 1,000 is better than none, but I'm just still saying there'll still be guns out there. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right, but there's just better one than none. That's
Right.
all.
Yeah, and that's a fine point, but I still stand by my point that there'll still be semi-automatic guns there. As many of you know, President Trump is very active on social media, which poses a question. Is it necessary for a political leader to be active on social media? What do you think, Aiden?
Well, I think it is very good to get your message across. Oh, you have a campaign rally to reach the generation, our generation, Generation Z, the millennials. It's a good way to reach out. But the way that President Trump has been handling his access to social media is, I don't even know, ridiculous. He's using it to spew lies and spew his conspiracy theories. And some things that he says is like so unpresidential, and he does not need to address the nation from Twitter. What do you think?
Yeah, well, yeah. So you're pro-Trump, right? No, I don't know. I think those are fine points. Obviously, a little extreme for a not Trump supporter, but I think that it's important to use social media as it is whether you like social media or not, it is today's day and age. But I
Yeah, I
think
know.
I think I think it is crucial for a political leader to find the balance from ranting on social media and from abusing social media to using it to publicize yourself and to use what social media is for.
Right, that's where I agree with you. I agree that it is great for addressing our generation, but that almost doesn't matter because of the way President Trump has been handling it.
As we hopefully come closer to a coronavirus vaccine, just on the topic of vaccines, some parents
Mm-hmm.
decide not to vaccinate their children with certain vaccines. So, raises a very, very interesting question on should parents be required to vaccinate their children? What do you think?
Should parents be required to give their children seatbelts? Should parents be required to put on helmets of their child when they're going biking? All of these are for protection of their child. While there might be side effects and there might be small things, you are so much more safe than sorry.
Right, I 100% agree. That's very well put with your analogy from seatbelts and everything like that. Just something to look forward to is we will be starting a new segment called the Career Angle. The Career Angle will be a new segment on the Younger Half podcast where we invite people from different careers to discuss what they do, their upbringing, challenges they faced, and many, many other things about their career. And they could share insights on their career and everything in about their career and stuff. So thank you guys so much
Yeah.
for listening. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at The Younger Half. Thanks so much for listening. Have a good day.